I wasn't happy. It wasn't a good fit for me. I wanted to help people. You don't know that you're ever fully ready, but you just have to be ready enough and you take that leap. When you're working for somebody else, you can't necessarily respond. It's harder to respond to the needs of your family. Nobody gets to tell me what that looks like. Parents are human too, and we have limits. To compartmentalization takes energy. We have to acknowledge the reality of what it is that we're going through. Done is better than perfect.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to 23 Journeys, a network for creatives. I am your host, Mr. Tato Datsun, with my lovely co-host and wife, Naomi.
Hey, everyone.
We have a great episode today. So me and Naomi, we're parents, and we're parents of two amazing girls. And we know that many of our listeners are also parents too, or one day plan to be. That's why today we're focusing on navigating parenthood, tackling the challenges of being a creative entrepreneur. To help us dive deep, we have an extra special guest that we are proud to call our family. Nicole McNelis is a licensed professional counselor with over 12 years of experience guiding people through life's biggest transitions. She's certified in maternal mental health and blends cognitive behavior, therapy, mindfulness, solution-focused strategies to support families in protecting their mental health and with work-life balance, family and professional growth. So whether you are a new parent, a seasoned entrepreneur, or just trying to keep it all together, because trust me, we all are, you're going to get so much out of this conversation. And Nicole, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. That was such a beautiful introduction. I appreciate it. That was quite a mouthful. So, yeah.
I know, right?
You almost got through the whole thing.
I know, right? Naomi wrote it for me this time.
Thank you. But yes, those are all the things that I do.
It's such a pleasure to have you here. So, we gave a little bit of background, but, if you could dive into some of the things that, parenting and entrepreneurship, we'd love our listeners to hear a little bit more about your story.
Sure. Yeah. So I have I think what's a bit of a non-traditional path to where I currently am in my career. So after I graduated from undergrad, my undergraduate degree is in industrial organizational psychology, which is a mix of psychology and business. I actually was in sales and marketing for about 6 years. And even though I was doing well, I wasn't happy. It wasn't a good fit for me. I wanted to help people for a living. And so I decided that I wanted to be a counselor, that I wanted to go back to school and wanted to be a therapist in some capacity. So the day that I got my acceptance to graduate school, I gave my 2 weeks notice in the sales position that I was at that time. I had to give the company car back. That was probably one of the more difficult things. It was rough. I was like in my late 20s with a company car. And yeah, so that was part of the deal. But it's the best decision that I've ever made career-wise. So I went to graduate school. I graduated as quickly as they would let me. And I started out initially as a school counselor, and I really enjoyed that work. But then once I had my own children, I wanted more flexibility. And the goal for me was always to do outpatient work and to have my own practice. And so I was really looking at it as steps. So I started out in school counseling, had my first child, started doing outpatient work, which is what most people think of as therapy. That's usually when you see a therapist once a week, once every other week, and you're going into their office. So I started out working for a large group practice, which was a great experience. I got to work within a team. I had a really great supervisor that I learned a lot from. And then once I had my second child, I was like, you know what? I'm ready to do this on my own, or I'm ready enough to do this on my own. So as you know, as being an entrepreneur, it's like, you don't know that you're ever fully ready, but you just have to be ready enough and you take that leap. And that's where I was. And I also recognized as I was doing work in the group practice that the clients I was serving best were other parents. And so after having my second and deciding to go into private practice, I decided that I wanted to specialize, and I wanted to specialize in working with parents and working with mothers specifically because I realized those were the clients that I was connecting with because I had this lived experience that changed my entire life. And that was where I wanted to put my energy, and that's where my heart was. And in being able to have my own practice, I was able to do that. And again, that was another decision that was a really wonderful decision. I love the work that I get to do. And what's really been cool about my journey is I remember thinking when I started graduate school, like, what am I going to do with this sales and marketing background? Like, what a shame that I did that for 6 years. But what ended up happening, especially when I started my own private practices, I was able to use so much of what I learned working for these huge organizations and getting all of this great training and all this great experience. I was able to use a lot of that in my work in my private practice because now I'm a small business owner. I'm an entrepreneur in the healthcare space. And so I actually use a lot of what I learned when I was in sales and marketing in the work that I do now with my private practice. So it's great to have that. I combine that clinical background. I use that with my clients. And then when I'm working on the business side of my practice, I get to use that sales and marketing background. So it's all worked out really well. So that is what has gotten me here today.
Nice. Your kind of story of going from working in a nice sales job and being an entrepreneur is kind of like my background too, because I was doing marketing and branding for a corporation, was doing really good. And, I was even in line to even become a manager of the group and everything and such. But different things happened, which I was just like, I'm just not happy. The schedule was so caught up with what they needed me for that our first daughter was born actually. And I was just like, well, I want to be able to have more control of like when I'm home, but I was always on the road. Mind you, I'm on the road all the time anyway, but, but it's my choice now, guys. It's not somebody else going like, hey, you got to go to this spot. And I'm just like, I'm stuck out here. And I'm like, I don't want to miss those formative years of my daughter growing up. So eventually, it was rough. I left, like I said, lost a company car. We had a truck that I would be able to drive. And eventually down the line, now we're a full grown business. And a lot of it came with the support of Naomi too, because for creative entrepreneurs to really be successful, you can do it on your own, but it's a lot easier and more practical if you have a partner who's able to at least carry the load of like the making sure that you got consistent income coming, because you still got to pay your bills, you still got to eat your food, you got to take care of your kids and everything and stuff. So she had the insurance and she had the full-time gig and stuff. And then as the business grew, then it's like, okay, cool. Now our business is bringing it out. And so, yeah, a lot of similarities and all that.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think it's so important to, like you were saying, like look at the whole picture. Like, what do I need as an entrepreneur to make this successful, right? And also as your family, as a parent and an entrepreneur, thinking about as my family is growing and changing, how do I want my business to grow and change with that, right? Like when you're working for somebody else, you can't necessarily respond. It's harder to respond to the needs of your family when somebody else is telling you, you need to do this in your job. So for example, as my kids are getting older, during the daytime when they're at school, that's like the calm time in our household. When they get home from school, it's like a tornado has hit our home because this one's got to get to this practice and this one's got to do this homework and this thing is due. And so I recognized that the evening hours that I was working to meet the needs of my clients and that worked well for me, about 2 years ago, they didn't work for me anymore. Working in the evening became really, really difficult. And so I gave all my clients that I was seeing in the evening a few months' notice. We figured out another schedule that worked for them. And again, I've never looked back. I don't miss those evening hours at all because now I get to go to the practice. I get to go to, the musical at the school. Like I get to do all of these things that I wouldn't have been able to do if somebody was dictating my schedule to me. The other thing I've been able to do more of, so I'm a solo clinician. My practice is just mine. I'm the only clinician there, and I don't have any designs on opening a group practice. I love just, working by myself in my practice. But what I've been able to do is grow my practice in other ways. So now I speak at conferences, I train other therapists. There's different ways I get to decide what my impact is going to be in my industry and in my field. Nobody gets to tell me what that looks like. Right now that my kids are older, I can travel more. So it's been such a wonderful journey being able to say, this is where I want to go with my work and being able to be the one that makes that happen, of course, with the support. Like when I'm away, who's watching the kids, right? It's my husband. It's Naomi's cousin. So shout out to Greg. So,
hey, Greg.
What up, Greg?
Yeah, when he travels for work, then I take on that responsibility, right? So it's so wonderful to have a supportive partner that's also like, hey, you make this work for me. I'm going to make this work for you because I know that this is what you want to do and you're supporting our family in this way. And so then I'm going to step in when you're not able to be here. So it's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Now, besides even just the positive benefits that we were just pointing out and everything, when you own your own business, there's a lot of stress involved that comes with that. And a lot of times the stress, sometimes even unknowingly, transfers into the home, or it transfers into your job itself because you're bringing home stress into the job itself. And we actually have two scenarios that we wanted to bring up. I'll let you know one, and then Tato can let you know the other. The first one, we were working a wedding. We were contracted to be the videographers for the wedding. We show up, and there's another photography team there. Meanwhile, we find out that she just had a baby not long ago. She had booked this wedding way before she was even pregnant, because when you're in the wedding industry, you're booking years in advance sometimes. So she was fresh, has a newborn baby at home. This was the first time she left her home. She's feeling guilty about leaving the baby. But then not only that is she was breastfeeding and stuff the baby. So then here she is trying to find any spare time within a 10-hour day to go pump and all when she wasn't needed by her clients. And then sometimes the brides would be asking like, hey, have you seen the photographer? And we're like, oh, well, she just ran over here real quick. Let's go get her and all and whatnot. So that was one instance where like her home and then her business were colliding. And sometimes there's not anything you can do about it. And sometimes there are. And then there was one other situation that Tato wanted to bring up too.
Yeah. So this one came from one of our listeners. So I love the message, like the story that she shared with us, and this also for everybody else. If you have a story that you want to share with us, we would love to share it on the show. But she said that when she was a kid, that she always saw her dad come home exhausted, drained. He didn't seem happy, so she grew up thinking that he hated his job. Years later, he told her how much he actually loved that and what he did, but the toll took him. He brought that home with him and wasn't even realizing that the example that he was setting to her, making it seem that work was this bad thing and everything. Once he let his guard down and relax after a stressful day and exhaustion showed, and he was able to shape and like reformulate that image and such. Like you said, Naomi talked about the mother who had to, pump and, get everything ready for her child going back home. And then fathers, a lot of us work long hours, we get up early, we come home late, and we, maybe we don't think about it, but if we come home, we're just like, whatever. Our kids, they see that and they're like, oh, dad's always tired, dad's always grumpy and everything like that. What can you speak on that for?
Like what's happening like mentally and emotionally and all there with those instances?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think those scenarios are probably going to resonate pretty deeply with your audience, right? And I think what both of those scenarios are speaking to is this idea that parents are human too, and we have limits. And it's really difficult to, especially when you own your own business, to compartmentalization takes energy, right? It takes psychological energy. Sometimes it takes physical energy. And it's difficult to keep work at work and home at home sometimes, especially if you have a new baby and you're having to return to work so soon, right? It's difficult to keep those things separate. Like what we're talking about with a mother who needs to pump, that is a physical need, right? And in the instance with the father where he wasn't realizing that he was bringing his work home in this negative way, right? That is another instance where it's like that he was just too drained to do the compartmentalizing. So something I talk to my clients about a lot, and it sounds really simple, but it's a really important starting point that is so easily overlooked. We have to acknowledge the reality of what it is that we're going through in order to find solutions that then fit those challenges that we're experiencing, right? Because if we're not being honest about what it is that we're struggling with, you're never going to get a solution that works, right? Like if you're not taking yourself seriously and if you're not recognizing the impact that you have on your family or the impact that going back to work at a certain stage after having a baby is having on you, then we're never going to find coping strategies that fit. So the first thing we have to do is we have to acknowledge this is what's happening. This is how I'm struggling with this. This is how I feel challenged by this. And then we can move on to the next step. So in addition to that, there's a 3-step process that I walk clients through. And I like acronyms. I'm old. It helps me remember. It helps me remember things. So I call it the ACA technique. It's acknowledge, get curious, and take action. So it's building on this idea of acknowledging. So that's the first step. Is first you have to just be real about what it is that you're going through, right? And recognize the impact it's having on you and other people. The second step, which is the getting curious, is I describe that to my clients as you want to talk to yourself the way that I talk to you in session, right? So if you're struggling with something, you want to ask yourself, why does this feel so hard right now? What is it that I am experiencing? How is this impacting me? How is this impacting the people in my life? Like, what is really happening right now? And you want to do that without judgment, right? It's like, it's not good or bad what it is that you're struggling with. It just is. So that's the curiosity piece, right? And if you are curious without judgment, you can then get answers to the question like, well, one of the reasons I'm struggling is I'm just so tired. I'm just so exhausted, either as a new parent or a parent that's working long hours, right? So then if you're realistic about like, oh, I'm so tired, I'm exhausted, then we can find solutions to that, right? Like maybe talking to a therapist would be helpful, right? And then so that's the next step. That's step 3, that's taking action. Taking action is where we put the coping strategies in. Do you need some more self-care? Do you need some more support? Do you need to see a therapist? Can we work on some self-compassion exercises where you're going easier on yourself, right? We can do things once we've, one, gotten realistic about what it is that you're dealing with, used some curiosity to really examine what it is that you're struggling with and why, and then we can find solutions that then fit what it is that you're struggling with. So that is where I take clients when they come to me with scenarios that are actually very similar to the ones that you're talking about.
Actually, and we actually just brought on an editor onto our team, and that was one of the biggest issues that I had myself, because I was having issues of, and Naomi can attest to it too, is like I'd be coming home and I'd try to play and be with my kids, but I was just grumpy, and and the kids are telling Naomi like, Daddy's so grumpy all the time. And but now having the editor like help divvy up the work and everything has been a great blessing. I can actually enjoy my family. I can actually enjoy myself. I can focus on building the business and everything, bring us more work. So, and everything. So, that I think we did that ourselves without even getting your advice.
It's true. They didn't ask me about that.
Right. But yeah, it's finding that what's ailing you. What do you really need to help your mental and emotional health? Because people don't. I mean, it's a good thing that we talk about this more often. Everyone talks about mental and emotional health more. On the emotional health side, men need to really talk about that a lot more, because us men, the word you said.
Now I'm saying what you're saying.
Compartmentalize.
There you go. Thank you. We do that a lot, and a lot of time is because we're supposed to be head of the household. We're supposed to make sure that we have everything together, and once we show emotion or weakness and such, then we feel like we're failing and such. And it's society has to work on understanding that men feel too. We do feel. We may not feel as exactly how women feel, but we do feel, and it's okay for us to maybe just take a moment, relax, or if you need to talk to somebody, having friend groups and everything and such. That all that kind of stuff helps.
I also like too how you had pointed out that you have to analyze what you're going through at the time that you're going through it too, because sometimes you might be doing the same workload that you've been doing for years, but it was one small change that happened, like you said, with sleep or something that made the whole difference as to why am I acting this way now versus I've never acted that way before. And also because, like that one small thing can definitely change what you're doing and how you're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you were speaking to when you were looking at your situation is you did look at it without judgment. You weren't saying like, I'm so bad because I'm coming home cranky, right? Like I'm a bad dad. You said like, why is this happening? It's because my business is growing, which is amazing, but the workload is now too much for one person or for a handful of people. And we need somebody now to bring on that does this specific, that can take this piece of the workload off of me, right? And the other wonderful thing about the field and the industry that I'm in is, so I specialize in working with moms. I have colleagues who specialize in working with dads because dads need support too. And they also need specialized support because what they're dealing with is different for the most part than what moms are dealing with. Is there some crossover? Absolutely, right? But it's important that if you are seeking out help, that you are looking for someone that gets what it is that you're needing and that understands your specific situation. So I'm a big proponent of, when if someone is open to therapy, which clearly I'm very biased, I think therapy is pretty amazing, really examining what is it that I need and finding someone who's a good fit for that, finding someone who specializes in that, and then also finding someone whose style really worked for you. Like, I'm a very high energy therapist, so I warn clients about that before they start. I do a consultation call where I'm essentially like, hey, this is what you're going to get. And so you get to decide whether or not you want to work with me, because this is what it's like in session with me. Like, I'm not like I call myself the no chill therapist. Like, you're not going to get somebody who's like sitting back, just nodding. Like, I'm like this. I'm like fully engaged. I'm there with you. I'm very present. Like, that doesn't work for everyone. It works for my clients who choose me, but that's because they knew what they were getting into ahead of time. And so that's a really important part of the process if you are looking at working with a therapist, is find someone that's a good fit for you and be really honest with what it is that you need.
That's good too, because we tell our clients that, and potential clients that too, that are looking for photographers and everything. We're like, well, what's your style? What is your personality? Because we gel with certain people, and if we gel with you, like, your wedding's going to go fantastic. We're going to have a great day and everything. If we don't have the personalities that you like or that you want for your wedding, it's not going to go well. And the same thing with therapists. Like, you want somebody that you can connect with, you feel comfortable for, you can open up to, and all. Like, that's huge. And all.
Yeah, and then to back up what you just said, it's important because if a person is going to connect with somebody, whether it's a photographer or a therapist and everything, it's like, it's your mental health. You have to make sure you're getting the best person for the job, and it's your wedding. You got to make sure you're getting the best person for the job. And we don't take any offense to anybody who goes like, you know what, you were cool, but we're going to go with somebody else. And I'm totally fine with that. Why? I shoot a certain style. I'm not light and airy and other whatnot. And there's people who love that kind of style. I'm more of a cinematic, I like dark tones and like natural colors and such. And that's cool. There's people who love it and people who don't. There's people who like the high energy therapist. The people that just want to, so you say,
right?
Really,
Right. And I think, like, going back to the idea of entrepreneurship, what an important lesson, right? That for the client, it's about goodness of fit, right? And it is okay if you are not the right fit for everyone. So I love this podcast and I listen to it. So I know another thing that you guys talk about often is networking, right?
Yeah.
And so if you are not a good fit for someone and you are okay with that because you are confident and comfortable in the work that you do and you know it is a good fit for some clients, you can then refer that client that is not a good fit for you to someone in your network that is. And then they have that reciprocal relationship with you and they can do the same for you. Like a photographer or videographer that's not a good fit for a client that's coming to them but knows that your work is, they can then refer that client to you. Like, that's how we build those relationships. Therapists do the same thing. So there's a lot of parallels between the creative work that you guys do and the therapeutic work that I do. Building those networks when you're an entrepreneur and you have your own business is critically important. And honestly, it can be really fun too. Like, my therapist friends and colleagues, I don't know what I would do without them, especially being a solo practitioner. It's so nice to know that I have this community outside of my little small practice, right? And so I think that's critically important, and you bring up some really good points with that.
Yeah. And with the networking too, it's also like maybe your workload is maxed out too, but they're like, oh, we really want to work with you, and like, I can't fit you because I'm so. I'm booming. I got so many clients and stuff. So it's like, but here's another therapist who has my similar style too, that we both are kind of the same. So then, like you said, able to help them out. Same thing with photography and videography too.
Yeah, and too, because I remember I'm part of like certain mom groups and all, and I've seen people in the past that have looked for therapists that are dealing with issues with mom, and I remember tagging your business page in there and all, because like when I think of like mom therapist, I think of, oh, Nicole and all, and there might be other therapists that I know that deal with more of addictions and everything and stuff, so then I'll comment their names and all, so it's all about like what sparks in your memory then when you're trying to refer people out and all. And then just going back to what we were talking about with the scenarios and all, in entrepreneurship, photography, design, anything, you're often your own boss, which means a lot of times you don't have like PTO days, you don't have certain sick days and all. There's no time off built in, no one to step in if you're burned out, especially if you're solopreneur. How do you recommend self-employed parents start putting safeguards in place to prevent that stress from either coming into their work or coming into their home?
Yeah, what a great question, right? And as a self-employed working parent, this hits me very deeply, especially as someone again who my practice is just me. And so this actually goes back to what we were just talking about, building those relationships with your colleague, creating those communities that maybe don't exist kind of on their own. That doesn't mean you can't create them, right? So like I don't have a community in my practice because my practice is just me, but I have a peer consultation group that I meet with once a month. So what that means for therapists is I have a group of about 5 or 6 therapists that I meet with, and we talk about they're also all in solo private practice. So we talk about our businesses, we talk about our cases, and to be honest, we talk about our kids, we talk about our partners, we talk about it is support for us. And it started out as, okay, we're just going to talk about our cases, we're just going to talk about our businesses. But then we became friends because we were sharing so much. So then I'm going to give this really wonderful example. So again, there's about 5 or 6 of us in this group, and we meet about once a month. And, we people go through things. And so one of the therapists in our group needed to take a leave of absence from her business for about a month or so to take care of some things. And because the rest of us, because we're moms and because we're therapists, we're jumping in, like offering all the support, like, let us do this, let us do this, let us bring you meals. When you put on your away message for your clients, like, let one of us be the contacts, like, we want to take care of you. And she was adamant that she was okay and that she didn't need any help. And we were like, you're talking to a group of therapists. We know better. We know you. We've been meeting for years. We are also your friend, in addition to being your colleague. And so we were insistent, and we finally convinced her to let us help her in very small ways, like bringing her some meals, being the contact for her clients during emergencies when she was not available. And one of the other therapists in this group, who we refer to her as she has just the best words. She is one of the most eloquent people I've ever met. So she said to this other therapist friend, the one that we were helping, she said to her, "Thank you for letting us help you." She said, "Thank you for trusting us enough to be vulnerable with us and let us help you in this way. Like, we're helping you, but this is a gift to us." And I just thought, what a beautiful way to put that. Like, when you are building a community and you get to a point where you need some help, to be able to accept that help is not just a gift to you, but it's a gift to the people that you are allowing to help you. Because we were begging her. We were like, please let us help you.
Yeah.
And when she finally said yes, that was a gift to us, because that said to us, I trust you enough that I'm going to let you into this vulnerable space in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think because there's no paid leave when you have your own business, right? Like you said, there's no PTO. Those things don't exist. And so leaning on your community in those times and the community that you've created is critically important, whether that be family, friends, your colleagues, all of that is critically important. And so it takes work to create that, but my goodness, is it worth it? It's worth every moment that it takes, because it gives to you as much as you put into it.
That's fantastic. I love that's I think a perfect example. I did have a question though, for someone listening right now who's like we had to say, in the thick of it, stacked deadlines, back-to-back events. What are some small doable steps that they could take like this week to protect their energy and their mental health?
Yeah, so I think it is, in addition to kind of thinking big picture and doing a lot of planning and creating these communities, we also need bite-sized and really accessible strategies that we can use in the moment, like you said, when we're in the thick of it. So one of the things that first comes to mind with me that I talk to clients about all the time is, what is good enough, right? Like, if you are working on social media content, it doesn't have to be perfect. And honestly, what would perfect social media content be anyway, right? You want to think about, what is your goal? Is it engagement? It is getting information out about an event that you're having? And what is good enough to put out there so that you can cross that off your list, right? Like done is better than perfect. That is something that I say to myself as a small business owner all the time. Like sometimes things just got to get done, whether or not I'm ready, and then I can work on it, right? Then I can edit something again, or I can learn something from feedback that I get. But sometimes you just got to put stuff out there, right? So asking yourself really pretty consistently, what is good enough that I can put this thing out there and then work on it again if I need to. Something else that I talk to clients about all of the time is, and this is a really hard one I think for people who own their own business and are just used to getting things done, right? Making peace with the idea of your to-do lists are just never ending. they're just never ending, right? Like I bet the both of you can always add something to your business to-do lists and to your personal to-do list, right?
Yeah. Oh.
Always, right?
Yeah.
Because there's always, when you're in that entrepreneurial mindset, there's always the next thing, right? It's actually quite hard to live in the moment sometimes and appreciate where you are and the hard work that you've done to get there because you're always on to the next thing. That's why you're good at what you do, right? And so you have to make peace with, there is never going to be a moment like this, like perfect harmonious moment where all the things are going to be crossed off the to-do list in the business world and all of the things are going to be crossed off the to-do list kind of in the home space. That just doesn't exist, right? So you just have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable because there's always going to be things that are not going to get crossed off. And so deciding what is a priority today? What is a priority this week? And working on those things, and the other things are always going to be there, right? And so I think those are two really important techniques that I talk to clients about all of the time because these are things that come up in session with my clients.
And then jumping off and riding that wave right there, we also have on the home side of things, like what are some ways that maybe we should check in with our partners or kids just to make sure that they're not feeling, burnt out from our, from our stress.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually teach a course to parents on preparing your partnership for either having your first child or for growing your family. And we spend half of the time in that course on communication because communication is so critically important, right? And I think sometimes when partners think of communication, they think, we got to sit down after the kids go to bed, right? If they go to bed. And we got to have this
being the key
right,
word, yeah.
Right. We got to have this hour-long conversation. We're going to have this checklist, all these things that we're going to talk about, right? And we're going to like ace this communication thing. That is unrealistic for most parents of children, especially of small children, right? Where you put them to bed and they're like getting out of bed, telling you they need something, or teenagers who are like sneaking out of bed to get on their phones or whatever they're doing, right? Like it's all the same, right? And so what I teach clients is good communication is constant communication. It's continuous communication, right? If you only have 5 minutes to talk to your partner, you have to learn how to use those 5 minutes effectively. And one of the ways that you do that is actually not by talking. It's actually by being a really good active listener. So something that I learned in graduate school that I bring back to clients all of the time and that I teach in the courses that I teach is this idea that when you are, the way that you know that you're listening actively is if you're listening without waiting to talk, right?
Yeah.
And because frequently we say something, then our partner says something, and we're like this, right? Like, oh, but I got this thing to tell you, right? And just because you're not interrupting them doesn't mean that you're actually doing active listening. Active listening means that you are truly hearing and seeing the person who is communicating with you. And the way that you can indicate that is that you do some nonverbals, right? You reflect back what you're hearing. You ask some follow-up questions, right? That is how you engage in active listening. It's not by like, what is the next thing that I'm going to say? That's actually the opposite of what you should be doing. So communication in any way, using any time that you can find, right? That's key. And then being an active listener is key. So
Right on. Solid advice. So we've talked about so many examples earlier where parents, especially moms, don't get their true break from having a baby. Instead, they're right back, running their businesses. Sometimes they're working long events, still in postpartum recovery. And for many, it's not just about the physical recovery. There's the emotional strain, like Naomi has told me about mommy guilt and everything. And I've seen it as a real thing. What's your perspective on this, Nicole?
So, mom guilt comes from the idea that you have done something wrong. Like, we only feel guilty when we think we've done something wrong. So, that's the first thing to recognize is that you haven't done anything wrong. So, again, it goes back to this idea of so there's so much pressure on mothers to do it all of the time. And we really have to push back on that idea. So, the example that I give is when I was really putting in the work to launch my private practice, it took months to do once I really decided, like, okay, I'm ready to launch my private practice. This is my launch date. I really have to get to work on this. And what I was recognizing was during that time, so I am the cook in our family. I'm just sorry, Greg. I'm just a better cook, and so I do most of the cooking so that we can actually eat. And I was recognizing that during the time that I was really putting in the bulk of the effort to launch my private practice, I didn't have the time to cook. Right. I also like to be super organized, so our house was a little messier. We were ordering takeout a little bit more, and you know who was complaining? No one, because the kids were like, "Oh, we're having pizza again." That sounds great. Like nobody was upset with me. The only one that thought that I wasn't doing enough was me, right? So I had to recognize that during this time of practice building, I need to put more time and effort into my work life and into my business life, right? But then once I get this practice launched, I'm going to be setting my own schedule. Then I can have days where I'm fully focusing on what the kids need, right? Where I can do, we used to call them mommy and me days. I couldn't do that when I was working for someone else, right? So it's this idea that you have to recognize that your energy and your time they're like a precious asset, right? And they're limited, right? It's the idea that your time and your energy are finite resources. And especially if you're an entrepreneur, and a parent, you're pulled in a million different directions all of the time. And then you can feel badly about not fully showing up, right? But if you consciously decide, this is a time in my life where my business needs more energy. And so I'm going to make a conscious decision to put more energy into my business. But then when I get some of these things crossed off my list, when I do the good enough thing with my business, then I'm going to put some more time and energy into being with my kids or spending time with my partner or doing things around the house, right? So it's this idea of being very conscious about where you're putting this finite and precious resource of your time and your energy.
Solid information.
I agree with that too. And sometimes we're our own worst critic when it comes to that. Because a lot of times too, like if I'll be like, I didn't get this done, I didn't get this done, I didn't get this done, and Tuttle will be like, but you got this, this, and this done. And I'm like, oh yeah, I did do that, that, and that. But my brain is just focusing on the stuff that's still on my to-do list. I'm not thinking about like the stuff that I actually did. And then even for like the mom that was there at the wedding and all, like she was feeling guilty because she left her child and all this stuff. It's like, okay, well, she had already had this wedding planned. Now that she knows she is a mother and she has all those, now she can look forward and be like, okay, do I want to be doing long weddings? Do I only want to be doing short weddings? Like, and now she can adjust now knowing what mom life is like, and then she can go from that direction from there. And also, it's not like she might have been feeling guilty that she left her baby and all, but now she's learning these new aspects and she can better plan for the future then moving forward.
That's exactly right. I think as both a parent and an entrepreneur and a business owner, constantly asking yourself, what have I learned from this, right? And one of the only ways you can learn from challenging situations is by using curiosity and not judgment. Had that photographer mom said to herself, I am both bad at being a photographer and bad at being a mom, right? Because I've left my newborn baby at home so that I could be here at this wedding that I was contracted to be at. And now I'm needing to go and pump because I'm physically in pain and I need to do this for my baby. So I am not fully present for anyone right now. This is terrible. I'm really bad at this, right?
Mm-hmm.
That type of self-criticism is a dead end. It doesn't get us anywhere, right? You're just beating yourself up and you're not learning anything from that situation. If she was able to do exactly what you just walked us through, which was, okay, this was really tough, but what did I learn from this? Do I need a different type of work schedule? Do I need a different type of support at home? What can I do moving forward that is different, that will grow, be sustainable and be able to grow and change as my family grows and changes, and also as I grow and change as a professional and as a mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
The only way to do that is by pulling back on the judgment and using curiosity and being open to learning from difficult situations. So yeah, I think that that's a perfect example.
Yeah. So definitely everybody be open to learning. Never stop learning. They say, what's the saying? They say like when you stop learning is when, what is that one?
I love that. I had a professor in graduate school that I still quote to this day. And I remember I was struggling with it was the end of my time in graduate school, and I was struggling with some of the concepts that we were learning. And I was honest about it. And I said to him, like, I don't know how I'm ever gonna like fully grasp this. And he said to me, the day you think you know everything that there is to know about counseling is the day you should retire.
That's what.
And I was like, so what that did is that changed my mindset from I'm not understanding this concept at this moment, and so I'm not good at this, so I shouldn't be a therapist, to I'm actually recognizing what it is that I don't know, and I need to put more time into this, and maybe I need what I really needed to do is I just needed to get in front of a client and work some things out, right? I needed that experience. It was something that I couldn't learn from a book. And being open to that then helped me to recognize, like, oh, being open to continual growth is actually a sign that you're good at what you do, because you recognize these are areas that I need to grow. This is what I'm good at. These are my strengths, instead of just like, I don't understand this right now, and so I need to fully shut this down, or I'm not good at this right now, I need to shut this down. I have a colleague who always says, you're just not good at that yet. Right. And I really appreciate that. That's the same idea. So again, this continual learning and being open to that, and coming back to this idea of using curiosity, I think is really important.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been great, Nicole. A lot of great talking points today. You know, we've talked about the pressures of running a business while raising a family, the way stress can spill into your home life. We've talked about how returning the home too soon can, be a big toll. And anything, was there anything else you'd like to add, like that we may have missed on today's conversation that you feel that would be helpful for our listeners?
Oh, I think we talked about so many things that I think are important. Again, kind of like to the three aspects that we talked about, right? This idea of being an entrepreneur, being a parent, being a small business owner, and recognizing that those are all parts of your identity. And compartmentalization sometimes is honestly overrated. Like, it is okay for all of those parts of you to come together at different times. And I constantly go back to this idea of really being curious about where you are as a professional and where you are as a parent, and asking yourself, what is it that I want to do next? Where is it that I want to go? So for example, and I'm assuming that this might be true for your industry too, in the therapy space and in the private practice space, when someone's doing really well as a solo practitioner, typically the next step is to open a group practice. When I think about managing other people in addition to trying to manage my family and my home life, that just makes me cringe. I have no desire to manage other therapists in a private practice setting. That does not appeal to me in any way. And I had to get really honest with myself about that, and essentially tell myself, that's okay. That is not, just because that's the next step for a lot of therapists who are doing well in their private practice, doesn't mean that has to be the next step for me. Do I want to have more impact in what I do beyond the therapy room? I do. So how do I do that, right? And so being open to that and asking myself those questions, and recognizing that I already didn't take the path that most people took to getting to be a therapist. And so I don't now have to take this prescribed path to growth. So my path for growth was, I want to educate other therapists. I want to do continuing education. I want to teach courses. I want to speak at conferences. I want to write blog posts that get published by international organizations. I'm doing research now. I told myself I'd never do research after I graduated from grad school, but there's a big gap kind of in my specialty area in research. And so I'm the type of person where I go, oh, this thing doesn't exist. Maybe I could do it. And then I start to ask myself, well, have I done this to myself? But usually by the end of the process, it ends up being something really wonderful and worthwhile, because I decided that with my time and my energy, this is something that I want to do, and I have the freedom to do that. And then I go ahead and do it, and I'm able to fill these voids in my field that really need to be filled, and that feels so purposeful for me, right? Mm-hmm. So again, this idea of constantly learning, asking yourself questions, recognizing that you have now built a space for yourself in your business where you don't have to take the prescribed path. So what is the path that you want to take, and what steps do you need to get there, and what type of support do you need to get there? And so I think, constantly I know we've talked about curiosity a lot, but I really think that that is critically important. And I think in a society that is go, 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 more, get on to the next thing all of the time, taking these moments to really think about, I have built this thing, and where do I want it to go next? and I've built this thing so that nobody can tell me what to do. And so let me continue to embrace that. I have a colleague who refers to herself as unbossable, and I'm like, I love that so much. She always says, I will never work for anybody else ever again. And I'm like, yes, I get that. And not only that, but now I get to decide what my next steps are, right? And also sometimes just allowing yourself to be content in what it is that you've built, or be content in the family that you've built, right? So allowing for both of that contentedness, and also allowing for growth, but growth that is dictated by you and what it is that you want and need.
I like that too, because you definitely have to love what you're doing. And if you're going to move forward into an aspect, you want to make sure you're going to continue to love what you're doing and not start to hate what it is that you built along the process.
Exactly.
And all.
Right.
And like even in the photography, videography world and entrepreneurs and stuff over in the creative industry, there's so many different paths that people are taking, especially now. Like there's people that specialize just in drone work, and they will fly drones and do just video for drone work. And then there's people that will do only behind the scenes stuff. They will follow celebrities and different people around, following all the behind the scenes stuff for them. And that's their specialty. And also it's like, if that's what they want to do, they make their mark doing that and all. So yeah, I definitely agree.
100%. So thank you so much, Nicole, for being with us today. It's been a great pleasure. I've been learning so much. I was just like, okay, I'm back in college. Taking notes. Yes, professor. All right. How can people maybe get a hold of you, or do you have any social media links that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I do. So I have a website for my private practice, and that is NicoleMcNelis.com. And then I am active on social media. My Instagram is Therapist Mom Collective, and you can find, that's where all of my updated work is. So yeah, that's where you can find me. And I love it when potential clients reach out, or colleagues, or just people who are interested in what I do. I think building those relationships and having those conversations, even with people, again, who are just curious, I love that. So feel free to reach out anytime. I'm always happy to chat.
Awesome. And we'll have those, we'll have her links and everything in the show notes. And if you love our podcast and would love to see more episodes or learn more about what we do, visit us at www.23journeyscreative.com. I am your host, Tato Datson, with my partner in crime, Naomi. Thank you, Nicole. It has been a pleasure. We hope you all had a great time listening to us today or watching us on YouTube, and we will catch y'all later.
Have a good night, guys.
Have a good one.